So I want you to be able to go out here to the chat and see some of the questions that are out here. I have one pertaining to, we were talking earlier about how to utilize the champion of the organization, or the sponsor, whoever the gung-ho cheerleader is for the organization. The question is, how do we communicate with the champion what we need them to do? We've seen champions support, but they don't really drive anybody into the organization. So does anyone like to kind of share what they've done to engage their champion in helping them bring some members? I heard some of that, but what else can we ask them to do for us?
Well, let me just throw out champions come in different sizes, and it all depends on what type of champion are they. Are they a champion just so you have a person on the C-suite that says Toastmasters is a good thing, or do you have a champion that's going to, help you recruit? Now, I do know, like, so let me just talk about the champion at JB Hunt. The champion at JB Hunt is a person that understands the value of Toastmasters. So when the club goes and to the CFO, or need to go to the CFO about some money, they don't go to the CFO. When they need something from the HR VP, senior VP, they do not go. The Toastmaster does not go. What they have to do is they talk to that chief operating officer, who is the champion. They talk to them, and that person then goes to whoever they need to talk to, and they may and may not take that Toastmaster with them. So I think they have to understand what is going to be the role of the champion, or what role the champion is going to take, and then make sure it flows from there. And then also, one thing about champion, just because I'm a club member don't mean I can go talk to the champion. So you have to understand, do you have the wherewithal to go and talk to the champion? Now, I may be the treasurer of the club, or I may be the secretary of the club, but the champion may be a friend of the vice president of education. And that is the person that needs to go and talk to the champion.
Thank you. Anyone else want to respond to that question?
I'll take a stab, though. Coming after Willie is never an easy process, I will tell you. It's never easy. So one thing, and I'm going to come right down the same through line he just went, the words corporate champion, they're not always one person. There may be a designated, you are the corporate champion inside here, but your real corporate champion may be that manager who keeps sending all their interns. It may be that HR person who every time she's in a session for all of your company is talking about, oh, if you're looking for a way to develop communication skills, this is a great opportunity inside your own organization. So it's crucial to have that person inside your officers who can network and be that person who goes to your corporate champion with those clear asks, whether that's come represent in our open house or come represent by telling other managers to send us their way. But to me, it is just as valuable to have those people who are pro Toastmasters inside the organization at different levels. Let's say you have a corporate champion who's not 100% bought in. They may be the person who's been delegated to be in charge, and maybe they're not 100% okay, I'm going to do this. They're just doing it because they have to. Well, what if you have a connection with someone who influences that person? And that person is the person who starts driving and promoting, which inevitably brings your corporate sponsor back around to get more engaged again. So to me, it's not about that one champion. It's about diversifying that champion to be multiple levels of your organization. So that way, even when you face something, for example, a structural reorganization, that never happens in companies, right? You face something like that, you're not locked into that one champion because you've developed that whole organization to be your champion.
Thank you, Jessica. Denise, was there anything you wanted to add to that question?
No, I think that they summed it up pretty well. I would love to get my whole organization a champion. Yeah, couple officers down, 999 to go.
All right, well, it only takes one. It only takes one. All right, thank you. Second question I see here. For a club that starts with the membership being covered, what's your advice to introduce the requirements to get the membership paid to the club? So how do you introduce? So I guess you charter them. We said we're going to pay up front to get this thing rolling, but then how do you now roll in the accountability? Maybe you have to have a role and give a speech every 6 months to continue to be paid. So how do you really introduce that?
One of the first things that we did when I first started the JB Hunt Club to get the CFO to agree to pay the membership dues, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but a member had to attend so many meetings. They really had to attend so many meetings before it got paid. And the reason for that is because the CFO at the organization level did not write the check to pay it. Each one of those department heads had to pay for their employee. And then once that happened, then the CFO would write one big check that's going off to Toastmasters International. But the individual, departments had to do that. Now, what I was talking about, I have no idea. But anyway, I'm sure Denise is going to get me squared away.
Denise, you want to respond to the question?
I think that you want to introduce the different options there are, because some corporations may be willing just to write a check and pay for all those dues. Others may want some accountability. And so feel them out, kind of ask the questions and see where they sit, and then start introducing some of the options. I've seen several different ways. JB Hunt, I think you have to attend 3 meetings before they will pay for your dues. Tyson Foods used to pay for their dues right up front. At Walmart, some departments pay for your dues and not ask any questions. Other departments, they want to see that you're going to be committed before they will pay your dues. Like I mentioned, our corporate executive will pay the dues once you have completed a level. When that happens, then I can use my corporate card and I can pay for the different members that have completed their levels. I think it just really depends on the corporation and what the culture is. As Willie mentioned earlier, you have to understand the culture and what they're willing to do. I think if you talk about Toastmasters as a whole, like I mentioned earlier, $120 a year, that's all that it is. That's one meeting a month or one meeting a week for $120 a year. And if you talk about other programs that most departments will pay for without a blink is, like certified internal auditors or certified public accountants, or, there's a whole slew of things that they will pay for without even blinking. And what do they get for that money? Invitation to a quarterly meeting, maybe. They get a magazine in the mail. They get to keep the letters behind their name. That's really not that much compared to every week you get 60 minutes for $120 a year. That is less than $2.50 a week. You're going to get your money's worth out of Toastmasters. But also it's not about the money. It's really about them supporting them and making sure they can get to the meetings each week. If they can get to the meetings each week, then they will definitely get the value out of it.
Thanks, Denise. Jessica, you had a comment on that?
Sure. I'm going to agree with the 2 key words that they have both said, which is accountability and buy-in. You want your people to come to those. So, for example, we'll use Buckman. Buckman is willing to pay for that program up front. If you say you want to come be in Toastmasters, they're going to pay your dues up front for you. So our biggest challenge on that front was at the very beginning, we established our team norms, because we're not just a club, we are a team. And we are growing and supporting each other to develop and improve. So as part of our charter class and our first meeting was actually a team norms meeting where we got together as a club and said, these are the norms that we are going to agree to. Our goal is you need to make it to 2 meetings out of every month. Be there for 50% of the meetings, because we know we have a lot of members who travel. And if you can't do it, just let us know that you're at a customer visit. We're not worried about it if it's a customer deal. The second step of that was that we wanted every member to come to a new member orientation. So we did a new member orientation for our charter class And now every time a new member comes in, we not only have that new member orientation recorded on our Teams page, so there's a video already there for them to go check out and watch, but we do a Q&A new member orientation after. So if you have specific questions that aren't covered in that video, our new members get that space to come ask us questions and work through it. So that's kind of how we started, which was to have those norms established and to make sure we had our training pipeline built in place as we brought in new members. But one thing that was very handy for us even going forward across all of our meetings were it's as simple as a reach out for us, a lot of us. But like, let's say we have a member who hasn't been there in a month and we know they're not traveling. We know they're probably just busy, but we'll do that personal reach out. We have it assigned across different VP members, officers of our club to say, hey, haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? Do you think you can come back for a bit? Because I miss seeing your face. You'd be surprised how often that works. Just a simple, hey, we've missed seeing you. We'd love to have you back, because they appreciate being missed.
Great. Thank you all so much. I have a question for the three of you. And as we're just, again, talking about where we are today, corporate clubs, I would love to hear a success story, whether it be about a member of your club or a club itself, where they went from, I'd say, zero to hero. Because again, it's really about the transformation of an individual or the group. And I think that's what's really inspiring for us as we're trying to figure out how do we get members back, how do we engage them, how are we innovative to bring them in. I'd love to hear a success story. And now, as I was talking, I hope I gave you a little bit of time to think about it. But who'd like to share a success story about it? Okay, club. All right, Denise.
Yeah. So I have one. We had a member, Amanda Hess, a few years ago. She was so nervous about speaking in front of a group that when we asked her at the end of the meeting if she just wanted to tell us what she thought about the meeting, she just shook her head. I mean, she wouldn't even speak out loud. She came up to me after the meeting at my desk and said, I am so nervous that I couldn't even speak. And I said, okay, well, then next week, what I want you to do is I want you to come back. I'm going to give you the table topics question ahead of time so that you have time to think about it and you've got your answer already formulated. She said, okay, I can do that. So we did that. She had her question. She answered table topics. She goes, okay, I'm coming back next week. This time I don't want the question ahead of time. And so we just slowly built her up until she was able to give full speeches. And when the reason she started with Toastmasters was because she was supposed to give an update in a team meeting, and it was her first one, and she had like 5 minutes on the agenda. She said she did it in 30 seconds. She ran through it so fast. She didn't look at anyone. She was so nervous. And then her boss was just mortified and said, you need to go to Toastmasters. So she did. But the successful part of the story is we have Saturday morning meetings. At the time we were having them, I think once a month. She got up in front of all of our executives at a Saturday morning meeting. It was also broadcast out to different places. And she talked about Toastmasters and how Toastmasters helped her in front of a couple thousand Toastmasters associates. So she went from shaking her head to giving a presentation on Toastmasters in front of a couple thousand people.
That is phenomenal. Oh, thank you for sharing. Again, you never know. Just giving people a little bit, and over time, it's transforming. It really is. Jessica, you want to share your story?
I do. And this one's actually smaller in nature, but close to the heart. So this happened last week, actually. We have a Toastmaster who has been a member of our club since day one. And she has said the entire time, she's very nervous. She's not comfortable doing public speaking. She's been very hesitant to do speeches. Every time she's done a speech, it's been from others highly encouraging her, saying, hey, you should go, you should go, you should go, but never just outright, I'm ready, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to do it. Well, she's done other roles. She's always there. She's always ready to step up when she can. This past week, she came and said, hey, guess what? I signed up to present at a major conference and I want to start practicing more, but I feel like I can do this. And I want to volunteer for a speech next week so I can start getting into that mode. And I was so excited because not only is she taking that step to say, yeah, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to practice, but she's practicing to go present live at a conference. So I am just very proud of her. So.
That's another awesome story. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh man, that's really exciting. Mr. Willie, your story.
You know, I never have any stories, but I will share this. Early on in the JB Hunt, at the JB Hunt Club, there was a young man that was just totally nervous, similar to what Denise was talking about. And he had always wanted to be a client rep. That means outside of the company in the same location with the customer. But he just couldn't get it. I mean, he just didn't get it. And so he started going to Toastmasters. And after he finished his first level, and I convinced him that he needed to get the letter from Toastmasters International to say, look at what he's been accomplished. I can tell you that he got the job that he wanted afterwards. Similar, not something that happened recently, but when I started in Toastmasters, not so much the JB Hunt Club, because I can remember when I started in Toastmasters and I got that letter from Dan Rex, and it went all the way to the president of the company, and it filtered down. I still have that letter today where it started at the president and it went to the chief operations, see this, and then it went to the HR guy, see this, and when it went to the training guy, that was my boss, see this. And shortly after, when the chief, when our legal counsel had to go to New York to do a presentation, for some reason he couldn't go, but guess who they sent in his place? Not only did they send me and pay for it, they even paid for my wife to go. And I said, now this is what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. And what you find that happens to me also. When you're a Toastmaster, people lead in with, hey, you're a Toastmaster. Can you do this for me? I'm working on this presentation. I know you're a Toastmaster. Can you help me? I'm working on a presentation. Can you tell me how many ahs and ums I had when I spoke in front of the group last week? We become resources. And I think a lot of our stories come from people really want to learn and grow, and that's why they join. And they are surprised by their own transformation. My dissertation for my PhD was about communities of practice and the perceived value. And I did use Toastmaster. In the beginning of why people join are like a handful of reasons. They want to be more confident, they're trying to get promoted, the normal reasons. But the reasons why they stay are twofold. They didn't realize that they would grow as much as they did on both the communication and leadership side. The network, the feedback, the mentoring, or the one-on-one. I love that, Denise. Those are the reasons why people stay and where they truly see the value, and where our finance people love the ROI on this organization. So thank you so much. Again, I'm sure we all have in the audience here our own stories about how we have learned and grown. I will tell you, and you can't tell, I'm an introvert. And I sat in the parking lot of my first club meeting for about a half hour determining, do I want to go home or do I want to go inside? Should I go home? I really don't want to go in. And I went in, and I'm so glad I did. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. Just continue to expand my network, keep speaking more. And that's really how we leverage this organization. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. All right, let me just see if there's any other questions. Thank you, Eric. How do you get back members who left? Great question. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat, Eric. How do you get members who left to come back? So I'll ask any of our panel members who'd like to speak on that.
Well, one of the first things that I would say is, if you know that individual and that individual left, one of the first things that I would think that you need to do is find out why did they leave, and have an understanding of why they left before you go and talk to them about coming back to the club, because the problem, the situation that caused them to leave may still be in the club. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but at that particular point in time, you have to learn how to deal with it. How are you going to approach it? How are you going to let them know that things are going to be better? So I think one of the first things you have to do is find out why the person left the club. And then once you determine what that is, or find out what that is, then that gives you the wherewithal to formulate your thoughts in such a way that you'll be able to come and talk to that person about rejoining the club.
Thank you, Willie. Great point. Like in anything, people don't leave organizations, they leave leaders. So thank you for that response. Anyone else? How do we get members who left to come back?
I 100% agree with what Willie said. It comes down to the individual member's motivation for leaving and motivation for engaging. So if you don't know why they left, it's very hard to persuade them to come back because you don't know what's engaging them in the first place. So an example would be, I would say 7 times out of 10, if a member comes to me and says they're leaving, I almost always hear the same thing. It won't be true for everyone or every club, but what I get every time is, I just don't have the time to commit to this right now. So our strategy in addressing that has very much been a hiatus strategy, which is, hey, it's okay. I know you've got a big project, but go away if you need to for several months, but come back when you're done because we miss you and we want you back. And then what I will do, or what I'll have one of the VP officers do, and we'll kind of circulate out who's doing it. If we've had people who've stepped away from Toastmasters for a while, whether that's 3 months, 6 months, we make a point of, after that 3-month period is done, immediately reaching back out to that person. Say, hey, I know you left a while back because you had time commitments and this going on, but I want you to know we've missed having you in our meetings. We always thought you brought a lot of value to them. We would love to have you back. Let me know if that's something you're interested in, because you are welcome anytime. So that's one of the ways we've tried to address people leaving from a time perspective. The second is, what can we offer them to make it worth taking that time? Because it's all self-driven. It's all about your own development. Something in you is going to be willing to take that time if the appropriate motivation is there. Are you wanting to network with people in other departments? We can give you that. Are you wanting to work on speaking? We can give you that. Are you wanting to work on your professional development as a leader or as a person who can handle conflict? Come be a club officer and you get to practice in a safe zone, those skills that you need. So really, it always comes back to what Willie said. Know your member, know why they left, and know what matters to them to get them to come back.
Thanks, Jessica. Denise, comment?
So a few things that we do is, one, once you're on our meeting planner for our weekly meeting, you don't come off of it until someone else owns that planner. Because you never know when someone might be like, you know what, today's the day. I finally have time to go. Today's the day that I'm going to do it. The other thing is, maybe take a more subtle approach. If you see someone who they announced they just got a promotion, or you see someone who excelled in something, reach out to them and congratulate them for that. But when they know, hey, they're part of Toastmasters, I need to get back into that, right? So just take that subtle approach. You don't even have to mention Toastmasters sometimes for them to get back. I was talking to another Toastmasters member the other day from Walmart, and she has said the same experience that I've had is walking down the hall way back when we used to go to the office. People would try to avoid us because, oh man, I haven't been to Toastmasters in so long, right? So you don't want to be that nag either, that's just always asking them about coming back to Toastmasters. You want to make sure that they know that they're welcome and that they are missed, but that you don't think of them differently because they're not part of it. So you want to just encourage them and try some more subtle approaches, or when you're having an open house, make sure they're on the invite so that they can, if they've become a new boss, remind them that maybe their new associates might enjoy Toastmasters and get some things out of it. There's a lot of different things that you can do that can be a little more subtle instead of just, hey, we want your money type approaches.
Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing some great suggestions on how to get members back. I know, I think I've done that too. I'll be walking down the hall and somebody will deliberately, walk to the other side or turn around and go for the elevator because they know I might ask them about Toastmasters. Yeah, so it is, the way we have to, tread lightly is fun, but they know that they have, they've committed but haven't been. So yes, it's interesting, that dynamic. So thank you all for sharing. I want to ask each one of our panelists one last question here. Last words. What advice would you give about working in the corporate club space? And I'm going to start with Jessica.
I think we've reiterated it a couple times on this panel, but it's know the culture of the company and the corporate club you're working in. There may be clubs where direct approach is better and subtle approach is better. There may be clubs where, hey, having these connections at the CEO level is helpful, but honestly, your better connection is the managerial level because that's what helps you sustain membership. So I think truly understanding the culture of your company, how it works, how those interactions take place, how they prefer to meet and engage is crucial to developing a good success plan for your club, both in the short term and in the long term. Because if you uniquely understand your company's culture, you can develop that success and succession plan around what works for you and that club and that environment.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Willie.
I have to agree 100% with Jessica because she stole my answer. The first thing you have to understand is what is the culture? And not only understand what the culture is, how to work through the culture. And once you work through the culture, how to get to certain people. I mean, just think about it. If you're the lowest person on the totem pole, how are you going to get to the CEO? If you're the lowest person on the totem pole, how are you going to get to the CFO? So you have to really, truly understand the culture and understand how to work through the culture. And the last thing that I will say is you have to, must, and all the other words that you can throw in there, you must become a true networker. Because just like anything else in Toastmasters, it doesn't matter what you drive. What matters is what drives you when it comes to putting out the word about Toastmasters within a corporate environment.
Thank you, Willie. Appreciate that. Denise, last words about the corporate space.
So I think that because we have hierarchies in the corporate environment, making sure that the member has a conversation with their manager about what they want to get out of Toastmasters. So it's not just what happens within the Toastmasters walls, but it's also what happens back at their desk. If their manager knows what they're looking for, then they can be asking them periodically, so how's it going? Hey, I heard that you just gave your first speech. Do you want to give a presentation now in front of the team? So make sure that the manager knows what they're working on in Toastmasters. And then as the Toastmasters leadership, send out emails to their managers telling them what a great job that they've done. And the more personalized you can do that, the better. We usually try to write something about their first speech or a couple speeches. So we have to take meticulous notes on what their speech titles are so we can remember those things. And we also try to do that in our celebrations, making sure that they are remembered as individual members and not as just a group. And again, that we're just trying to make numbers for our dashboard or whatever it might be. But make sure that their managers know what they're in Toastmasters for, and then recognize them through their management when they're successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My thoughts around the corporate space also between ensuring that the leaders and the managers of the members know exactly what's going on. I always encourage the club to do the moments of truth exercise. Again, just to ensure that the club atmosphere is serving everyone's needs, because that creates both the PR strategy to bring new people in and to retain those that you have. And again, who doesn't love recognition? If we can send a little note out or have a little bulletin board or the intranet where we're congratulating Toastmasters. I mean, we had a town hall last week at my company, and someone asked the question, what's your favorite team? And someone said Toastmasters, and it was probably 20,000 people on the line. And I'm hoping we'll get a few. I know I got a phone call, someone asking me about the corporate club. So any way that we can promote what we're doing to the entire corporation is always great, because we are still a secret. It still baffles me that inside my organization we have two clubs, people still don't know anything about them. So we have to get better, and we're humble people as Toastmasters. We don't want to talk about where we were and how we've grown, but we need to. We are our own best billboard. I've heard ahs and ums and you knows from senior leaders. Some of it is very painful, and you're afraid. Hey, I don't want to go tell the CEO that he needs to come to Toastmasters, but sometimes somebody needs to tell him that. So we definitely want to encourage all of our folks in our corporation. It is transformational. It will help them advance their career. It will get them more confident talking in meetings, in front of big groups, small groups, all groups. So I absolutely love this conversation this afternoon. I thank you, Denise, Jessica, and Willie, for your thoughts, sharing what your teams are doing and continue to do. And I thank you in the audience for joining us. And I want to turn it back over to our Club Growth Director, Jackie. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carter. Thank you to our panelists for this wonderful discussion today. Now, this was a lot. There was a lot of information given today. There were three things that I heard, three commonalities. Define and understand the company's culture, be a networker, and be recognition driven in your club. Those were three of the common denominators that I heard. However, it's important to remember that no two clubs are the same. We received a lot of information today. Some of it it may work in your organization. Some of it may not because of your culture. I encourage you to go through your notes and pick out those things that you may be able to tweak. You may take some of these ideas and tweak them to fit your company's culture. So go back to your club members, to your executive board. Take these ideas and start planning for this year. But we do thank you so much for being here today. We'll stick around for a little bit after we have ended if you have some questions and would like to continue to chat. But outside of that, I'd like to turn it back over to our program quality director and thank you for including this in the education series for this year. Toastmaster Luzon.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, our moderator, Dr. Carter, and all our three panelists. And thank you for the rest of the audience to join us. And this is the District 43 Education Series. You will see it on our YouTube channel. And thank you. And please stay in tune. We will bring a lot of more exciting training material to you. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon.